Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now by Jackson Aurelia. Jackson Aurelia. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it Jackson Aurelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and tonight we are sponsored by the Pocket Aces backpack. If you guys have not checked out this backpack yet, you need to go right now to bit.ly/tforcebag, and you can check out this exact thing that I am pulling up onto the screen that is open from last week because I haven't used it again. But Pocket Aces has gracefully given us this backpack to show you guys and to tell you why you should go buy it. So if you go to bit.ly/tforcebag and use this code BACK, the number 2 school, you get this backpack for $119. Now the best thing about this backpack, that's what everyone's asking. That's what Dom's asking. That's what Sean's asking. That's what DeClaude is asking.
What's the best thing about this backpack, Adam?
I don't feel like I was properly introduced, so no, I wasn't asking that.
You know what you're asking? You're asking, well, why is there a power cable coming out of the side of the bag? Well, I tell you why. Because on the side of the bag, there is a 4-port power strip with a cell phone charger that comes with the bag when you buy it. So the best thing about this, it has a ton of compartments in it. You can use it for when you go to class and there's only one place to plug in your laptop. Now you can plug in your laptop, your cell phone, your girlfriend's cell phone, your crush's cell phone. You can plug in that blender if you want to make food. If you're Chira, you're going to bring a grilled cheese maker or a George Foreman grill and you're going to cook food in the middle of class.
In the middle of the library.
And there's enough pockets in the bag to put the George Foreman in it.
I would love to see videos of that. Somebody like hauling a blender around in the bag, then pulling it out ready to go and just like banging out a smoothie in the library or something.
Get the
like that.
Bullet. Get a full-size blender.
Go into like the grand reading room.
Well, it's great. This could fit a full-size blender in the bag. Like I know you guys can't really tell depth of field in this thing, but the pocket for the laptop's actually in the back of the bag, so it's perfect. You can put the blender in the front, the laptop in the back. You can charge your cell phone and make a smoothie at the same time. Boom, guys! Go check out Pocket Aces backpack. And thank you so much for guys for sponsoring us for this week of the podcast. Now, moving on, we are in episode 185. Tonight, we're going to talk about top lane Alistar. We're going to talk about the onesie that DeClaude is holding. And we're going to talk more about League of Legends and answer some of your questions. So, DeClaude, what is that little onesie you got going there?
Go to store.trinityforcepodcast.com and you can get t-shirts and onesies. This is for my daughter, who is due any day now. So
what's her? Come on, tell everybody the story of her name, though, real quick.
I don't even know where her name is.
Oh my God!
Oh, you've missed out.
It's adorable.
Okay,
it is. It's good.
So my wife, you know me, I love League of Legends. My wife pretty much knows nothing about it except that I play it and I podcast about it. So anyway, she's an avid reader, and there's this evil, ugly creature vampire thing in her book called Salindra that she liked. So she's like, "That's kind of a neat name, but I don't like the Sal part. How's Syndra for a name?" I'm like, sounds good to me.
What?
I love your creativity. Let's put it on the birth certificate right now. It's nothing to do with anything I would like, but it's good. So she came up with Syndra, which is awesome. So it's fate. She's Syndra.
Wow.
So,
okay.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Don't question
Yeah,
the
I mean, that's delightful.
And I'm terrible at her. I lost to Xin mid yesterday, but I need to get better. It's my sworn duty as a father. So. And I got a onesie, so.
And you got a onesie. I wish you would have put Cinder on the back. I wish I would have made that so it said Cinder on it. Like, or we
I
could
got magic marker or something. I can do that.
You need to make a pun, a Cinder pun, and make a shirt out of it. By the way, DeClaude, your camera and video is kind of going really funky, and so is your audio. But we'll move on in spite of that.
Only in Skype. Audacity is fine. So.
Yeah, we're good. Well, if you guys are watching live, you have to deal with it. Watch us live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Eastern Daylight Time at stream.trinityforcepodcast.com. One last announcement before we move into League of Legends discussion. Tonight, if you're not watching this live, if you're listening to the podcast, you need to go to youtube.com/tforcepodcast right now. If you're watching it live, you need to stay tuned till afterwards because Optimus Tom and myself are going 1v1 in Summoner's Rift for the first place slot in the Fantasy LCS. It's T-Force Podcast versus T-Force LCS Rundown. This is a Battle of the Ages, and I'm going to stomp him into the ground. He is not going to know he's not going to see what's coming. That man is going to get into the lane, and he's going to get taken out by my secret weapon, which I will not tell you what it is until we get on the Rift.
It's
And
Poppy.
I'm taking bets. We're gonna make a hell of a side game. So let's go.
I'm going to pull a Kale Sutton.
Oh
You do
Jesus!
it.
All right, heal.
You should play Poppy, just because.
No, I can't play Poppy. I'll lose. I'm a terrible Poppy.
That's even worse blow to his ego.
Oh my
if you
god,
give-
I'm gonna. Yeah, if it was a best of 5, I'd do it. All right, let's go ahead and move into League of Legends discussion then. You have all watched the European LCS playoffs, and you've seen that the LCS Rundown has already talked about it. You probably listened to that podcast, but they more than likely didn't mention Alistar, but you saw Alistar being played. Now you want to know, why is Alistar such a great pick? Why did SK lose with Alistar? Why did Rocat stomp with Alistar? What is going on with this pick, and why is it so awesome?
They stomped one game. They lost the other one.
There you go.
Yeah, Zazas, though, he tried it in solo queue. And everyone was surprised when he picked
He said
it
he
for the
played
first
it
game.
like he
Twice.
played it like twice
that day.
earlier that day. Yeah.
that same day. But here's the strategy he had, and it works. It's called Emperor Palpatine. You know, he gets the static shiv, and he becomes this electrical cow. It's if you headbutt and you right click right away, it's an auto attack. You can auto attack them while they're in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a Trinity Force Sheen, you get the Sheen proc, you get the static shiv proc, and you get the headbutt damage, and you just keep doing it, rinse and repeat. And that's how he pretty much won his lane. And then he has all the control he offers later in the game. So,
I mean, it wasn't even
it
that
works.
because that's so far. I mean, Trinity Force and Static Shift, that's way past laning and everything. He was never in his lane.
Once you get to that,
They won
yep.
They won that game because he was everywhere except his lane, which that's what you have to do as Alistar to make a meaningful impact. Like as
That's
Alistar,
worth noting.
you are trying to start as many team fights as possible because you have the abilities to punish anybody who stands around you. And in team fights, they all kind of have to. And that's
He even
really why
mentioned in his interview. He even mentioned in his interview that it's better if you get a lane swap with him. And he started out roaming with Yankos in the jungle to start, and then went bottom. And that's the game that he just kicked butt.
I mean,
It's pretty much the same thing as back in season 2 or early season 2 end of season 1 with roaming Tarek. When people would roll up and down the river with him before we had these advanced strategies, it was that surprise where 2 people are running out of the jungle at you at one time, because we're so far removed from the 4v1 with all the roams that people are becoming very complacent in their lanes and they're not expecting anything but the jungler to come. So when you have a cow who is moving very quickly, or you have a Karma, or you have anybody, let's say, I mean, cow obviously gives tons of CC at level 2, tons more than these other champions, but when you have people starting to grow complacent, that's when these awesome picks really start to come out. And who wants to play against Maokai in the top lane anymore anyway? Because he's just going to sustain it out. So it really...
Maokai got banned that game, too.
Yep.
I thought they played into Maokai. The one Rocat game I watched, they played into Maokai. No, it was Renekton. No. That's what it was.
Renekton, yeah.
I mean, and the reason the reason Millennium lost with Alistar, not SK, was they were just convinced that they didn't have to ban Maokai. They didn't think he was a problem. But B, they tried to play at normal lanes just with Alistar in the top lane instead of, whatever champion they otherwise would have run. They never had to. They had Alistar and Morgana, and they weren't trying to make team fights happen. Mm-hmm. The one time they got a good team fight going, they just cleaned up. Because the amount of crowd control that those 2 champions have there between picks, between damage absorption and breaking out of crowd control, and then their crowd control combined, it's absurd. And Millennium just didn't want to start those fights. Now, I didn't see the entirety of that game, so I don't know what exactly happened in the early goings that might have made them so cautious by halfway through endgame. But based on what I saw, they easily could have been starting fights, and they just didn't. They were trying to play the split push or, farm and get big game, and that wasn't going to win it for them.
Yeah, and in the Rocket game, when Zazos was on his own with Alistar to the lane after he finished the little roam in the very beginning, Impaler kept trying to gank him. They kept trying to commit resources to gank Alistar, and all he do was hit R and walk back to his turret. So that screwed them even more because then they got dragon objectives while they were doing that. They got turrets.
That's the last champion you want to try to gank.
Right, exactly. So you need to ignore him if the enemy picks Emperor Palpatine in the top lane. And
one thing I do want to point out, and the LCS casters even brought it up during that show, when you run the Emperor Palpatine build, as DeCloud is calling it, like you are not actually that tanky. Once you're like, unless your ult is up,
right.
Once you press R, you're tanky for 6 seconds or whatever, and then you're back to being actually pretty fragile. His, you otherwise are still going to need to build resistances if you want to have that kind of unkillable intimidation vector going.
Yeah, you rush the Sheen Shiv.
Yeah,
Sheen
if you're going that route. I would, you could just as reasonably go with an Iceborne Gauntlet instead of a Trinity Force there. That's going to make you more durable. The Sheen proc is just, you could argue it's better because it gives you the extra crowd control alongside of that. It's definitely going to make you more durable. And if you end up being forced into a split push roll, that's actually nicer because it's AoE damage as well.
It depends when you're able to pick up the next items or what you're doing at point in the game, because you may find that the phage and the move speed increase and the extra AD damage, because you're going to go Sheen phage more than likely. Zeal will be your last pick, which allows you to crit. But what I'm saying is, so people out there understand as well, you're not just going to rush Iceborne or rush Trinity Force. You're going to figure out what your team needs and what you're doing. If you're up 2 kills, Triforce is fantastic. But if you only have 2 assists, you might want to go to the assist Iceborne Gauntlet route instead, because you're not getting the items as quickly as you should be or you need to have.
I mean,
just in a way, it's the headbutt auto attack.
It's helping to facilitate people on your team who are already getting kills to continue getting kills, because if you're not super fed, that Trinity Force isn't going to be doing too much for you when the team fights roll around.
I mean, and the thing about top lane is you are going to get more gold than you would as a support, so you do get the opportunity to get more of those items. Out of the top lane especially, he's got a very, very malleable build path. You can do really whatever you want. If Frozen Heart and Abyssal Scepter is what's best for your team, then, just grab it after you've got those Palpatine items. You can really just do whatever you want after that, because just figure out how to contribute.
Unless your name is Ponophobia. Then you just pick up Trinity Force no matter what, because you're wrecked face. Watch out, Tom, I'm coming for you.
You need to do we need to have Snagglewolf do a promo intro for you. Introducing you.
I told you, if we got us in the room, I would 100% do the Kale Sudden type of thing. This Sunday! Anyway, continuing moving on. I don't want to take up too much time.
I will say, I'm all for, Zazis. Was he the first person to play Maokai? I believe top lane Maokai.
Europe.
Yeah. Well, in Europe.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm all down for him innovating in his respective region. I love seeing that stuff. So
that's why I like watching Rocket.
I'm a little upset that I didn't think about running Alistar top lane, because after I saw it, the instant I saw it, I sat back in my chair and I went, "Huh, that's a really good idea. Wow, it's really working really well." I went through the whole train of thought, the bop bop bop, and I went, "Damn it! I wish I would have thought of that."
I will say though,
you could W auto without stunning them first, so that you were there for a second to auto them. But you can W auto while they're in midair. I didn't know that.
As much as saying that that's a great idea is, because I mean it's cool, don't get me wrong, if he would have fallen on his face and not performed that first game, nobody would have been saying that.
Seeing it?
Right.
Well, didn't they do it in Korea? In OGN?
Top lane Alistar? No, they did top lane Maokai first.
I remember the Maokai, but I
think
I remember the casters saying
Zazas
someone
did it
tried
even before Korea did. Yeah,
But
Zazas got made
right.
fun of for doing top lane Maokai before Korea did it. And then Korea did it. And then everyone's like, "Oh, this is so cool.
So good."
And Zazas was like, "Yo, bro, I was
I
was first." I mean, the thing about top lane Alistar, you have to have a plan and you have to know how to act on that plan. You can't do what Millennium did and just pick it and think that, "Oh, it's a counter," or "Oh, it's just going to work because I'm Alistar." You need to know exactly what you're going to do. And you kind of got to be prepared for situations where you'll be behind or perceivably behind, and figuring out how to deal with that and get back in the game despite it. Because he's a tough champion to play well.
You know what? It's inspired different things in solo queue as well. I played a game yesterday where we had an enemy top lane Alistar who went full AP build, and he would delete people with a headbutt Q combo.
That's my favorite Alistar build.
Headbutt Q combo into Lich
You're so
Bane.
bad at it.
Oh,
Insta dead.
please. I'm the best.
You're so bad
My
at
Alistar
it
is godlike.
that you can't.
You gave Chirazudir a run for his money that one game, I remember.
I sure
course,
did.
I
He got
ganked him
putted into the
5
tower
seconds.
how many times?
I got punted off of you how many times? It's
Bullshit.
such-
Oh,
No, I'm
shit.
saying I could never reach you because you just
Oh.
W'd and walked away. It was,
Yeah,
that had to have been one of the most frustrating lanes I've ever taken a part in because it's like I'm a character that can only run at you. Oh wait, I'm halfway across the lane.
Down here.
Well, that's why you keep it just outside tower range. So if he comes in and tries to push, he goes into my tower.
I should have just said "fuck you" and left the lane and never come back.
Pretty much, yeah. You should have just started
Just
rubbing.
sat in your jungler's jungle and.
But there's a
did
tip
my
for
thing.
top lane Alistar. If you're getting pushed in, try to keep the wave just outside of your tower, because at any point you can QW them into the tower, and now they're just taking heaps of damage, and they have to take it. So, yeah.
Or you
if
can
you're losing
easily burn their flash, which helps keep their kill potential down.
and then it's like that Maokai thing where if you get, it's just a little different because you have to hit the combo to make it work, or you have to blow a flash. But if you lock somebody up with a pulverize, they're probably going to die when the jungler comes up, or you're gonna get a flash out of them. So it'll be fun to see what people are innovating coming to Worlds, as we are just a few weeks away. Sunday we find out GPLs. On Sunday we find out who are the going to Worlds for GPL. We find out who's going for Europe, or Saturday rather. Oh no, excuse me, GPL. It's not Europe. It's GPL, and it's the SKT game, the Korea game. So we find out a lot this week.
No, the second part of EU is this week, isn't it?
Friday. Rocket versus Fnatic.
I want to say because the SKT game is this week too, the tiebreaker.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So well, all right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our
What do you
next.
think they'll do? Think they'll do Jungle Janna?
Oh God.
You missed it. Declan just last week. You missed the game last night. It was amazing.
Really?
Oh, Chira wasn't in it either.
Yeah, they both missed it.
We had a Jungle Jetta and but Wrecker. Well, of course.
Of
course,
course,
Wrecker.
Why am I not at all surprised?
Support Nunu, mid lane Morgana.
He lost his first 4 buffs.
I'm not surprised.
Did he
at
build
all.
triple Athenes?
No, he
No,
built
he
split
went-
pushing.
Yeah, he went full. He had Renan's Hurricane, Feral Flare, Wit's End, Static Shiv, and I think Sunfire Cape was
Yeah,
his
something
last
like
item.
that.
Did you guys
Nice.
win?
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
Oh my God!
You must-
Why?
Pretty. We were like,
Wow.
until
We're up by
38 minutes.
we were up by 75 gold at one point in the middle of the game, and then otherwise we've been losing the entire game until 38 minutes, and they didn't know how to deal with the 1-3-1 push, and like thank God Wrecker just kept saying no, I'm split pushing, Luke's gonna split push, the other 3 of you just, like Wrecker just kept hammering that into us that the only way we're gonna win this is with a 1-3-1, and sure enough that's what it took.
Yeah. They had a volley bear who built Frozen Mallet, so you can imagine my face. But anyway, it was funny. Word of the wise, if you have a Twitch in your team, save Smite, because you might steal blue with Twitch by accident. That didn't happen last night, but it did.
Were you playing Twitch?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
I attacked it twice, and then I walked away, and the next thing I know, bloop, here comes a blue buff. I'm like, hey, I have blue.
Which actually screwed with me. Like, I didn't know what you were talking about. That's why we got so punished right out of the brush there. I was like, wait, what? Oh, and now so much damage.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on. We'll talk about some of the PvE stuff. Actually, this is going to be the last time that we're going to be able to talk about PvE, because Ghostcrawler has already come out and said they're going to start using the PvE after this next patch for crazy just builds. I mean, it may never make it, may find giant swings and changes. So after 4.14, the Trinity Force podcast is not going to talk about the PvE again until we see concrete information.
And I mean, don't say again. It might go back. It might go back to the thing they're. I mean, like, because they always go in like waves where they want to try a bunch of crazy stuff, and then the PvE just becomes more and more of the basically once it hits PvE, it's going to be going to live in some form or another. They're trying to get away from that, but they've tried to get away from it before, and it always ends up being what it is now.
I just assume through Worlds we probably won't be talking about
Oh
PvE.
yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if something really interesting hits the PvE, we could have Moopy on to talk about it again.
People have been calling for him. So right now on the PvE for 4.14, there are Maokai and Morgana nerfs. Maokai ult now has a maximum duration of 10 seconds. His twisted advanced damage is down to 13%, and his ratio has been lowered to 0.3.
That is not the change that I expected them to make to Maokai. I'm actually really glad that they went with this, but it's not the change I expected. I expected a hit to the damage reduction that the aura provides, and let's be realistic, that very well could still hit sometime after Worlds even.
I think with a max duration of 10 seconds, considering how much mana he has with the Rod of Ages, this is the perfect nerf to him, because it allows players who are good with using Maokai and good with using the ult to effectively change a team fight, but it also changes between you, anybody can face roll with him, to you have to understand the mechanics of his ultimate to
when
make
to use it,
good use of it.
Here's my favorite part about this nerf, and that it adds a lot of counterplay, where if you have a team that has a decent amount of disengage and Maokai just kind of absent-mindedly hits his ult, you can just walk out of it and wait till it's gone and bam, start the fight on your own terms rather than Maokai doing his normal thing. I think this is a good change. The damage nerf is going to be more slight than I think people are going to take into consideration for it. I don't think the 2% is going to make that big of a difference, and I don't think the ratio is going to affect him that much either. He's still going to do a consistent amount.
You're right. It's going to hurt him. He did most of his damage with that really in the mid to mid-late game, and that's where it is hurting it quite a bit. So, but it forces you, again, with the alt change, what it really does is it forces you to pick and choose your W's rather than absent-mindedly just jumping in and pressing R.
Well, and here's the other thing with the W change. Even if it reduces his damage, what does that reduce? Like, and when all is said and done, and he's Wing all the time, does that mean like for every 5 Ws, it's like he's only casting 4? Because he's still going to be spamming the ability for the most part. It's not like they targeted the cooldown on it or something like that. It's still going to be a pain in the ass, and it's still going to do a lot of damage. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
He doesn't need to do damage, though. Let's be honest. He doesn't need to be doing as much damage.
It's just an added bonus.
But that was just it. He doesn't need to be doing damage, but he was doing damage in addition to not dying. I mean, that's what he's doing in live. He's dealing damage and he's not dying and everything. You got to address it one way or the other, and that's fine. Tanks can be in this game. That's fine.
Right.
And he's not letting his team die either. So.
Well, when you
That's
have,
the big thing.
It's just crazy to think how much utility this guy has between a range slow, a melee slow, a knockback, a CC, damage reduction. Just think about all of that in the kit, and now he's doing percentage of life damage and has 1.0 AP ratios. On
short cooldowns.
Yeah, so really, when you look at it, it does make sense that he needs this nerf,
well,
and I'm glad to see. I think this is a step in the right direction.
This also adds that he might not even need a Rod of Ages. Like, look at it like this. A lot of the items that he builds right now are a lot of items that are mana based. So like, say, Frozen Heart, Rod of Ages, anything like that. You have a lot of mana, and part of that is when you have your ult on for a really long time, it's using up a lot of mana. Now, since his ult only lasts 10 seconds, you can't leave it on for 20 seconds, and you're not going to burn through the same amount of mana, say,
That's a good point.
That you would want to run through the entire time. So instead of seeing like a Maokai rush a Rod of Ages, you might see him go into like Frozen Heart, Sunfire.
I think the other side to that, though, is that part of the appeal of Rod of Ages was he doesn't need tanky items per se, because he has so much damage reduction as it is. So part of the appeal of Rod of Ages was it's a lot of HP and it's a lot of ability power, which are kind of hard to get together.
And it's super cost effective.
Well, and it's more sustain in lane, which he already had tons of. So now it's mana sustain in lane. I think you guys are right. Rod of Ages will probably. I still see Rod of Ages coming because he has such good AP ratios, but it may make him so he has a little bit more of a malleable path.
I think they might. This might end up actually just changing what his first buy might be. He might still be getting Rod of Ages all the time, but it isn't one of those things like now it's mandated you get Rod of Ages because there's no reason that you have to get it. It's good if you get it, but you don't need it. You can get something else, and it'll be just as effective because you don't need just a ridiculously large mana pool.
There we go. I think that's good for him. We'll touch back on him when we see the nerfs. Make sure the nerfs are sticking because we need to look at Morgana.
Yes.
With her Black Shield has on the PvE. Black Shield reduction lowered at early ranks. It lost 15. less, and at max it is 350 total.
I think it's 355 on live, so that's not really a big deal.
So it just loses 15 damage reduction early, right?
Yeah, it lost 15 to, it's down, it was at 90 and it's down to 75 at rank 1, and then the late game scaling isn't nearly as harsh. It's just at 350 instead of 355, so, and that, like, it wasn't an across the board number cut, so that's kind of where their heads at there. It is one of those
things, though. I agree with this. Like, I've always hated Black Shield. I found it really annoying. If you know how to deal with Morgana, she's not the end-all be-all support because you can bait out a Black Shield, save your damage for it. But it did provide too much absorption in the early game because it provides absorption and it provides CC immunity.
And it allows you to control the pace of every fight. You have to make
I was always of the mind. I mean,
down.
I was always of the mind that you just, unless you absolutely had to be ranking up that ability, you just put 1 point into it and went with the other stuff that was going to hit hard and cool down faster.
Right, but it's a 1 point wonder that's doing. You said 90. It was
90
damage.
And
that goes all the way through. That could 3 ranks could be 90. You know, easily.
It'll be like 150ish or
right.
It'll
But
be
I'm saying at rank 3, it could technically be 90 and still be a fantastic
good.
spell.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's just it. At rank 1, it's still amazing though. Even with damage, like reducing the damage on it, okay, that's great. It still blocks crowd control, and that's always going to be an appealing ability. Like it's right up there with
how long
Thresh's
is it going to be blocking that crowd control for?
Yeah, I should check. I didn't actually pay attention to the cooldown.
Well, if it's got a shorter life, then you could burn it quicker.
I think it's funny that they touch Soul Shackles on her and reduce damage by 25 across the board, because I never felt like Soul Shackles was doing too much damage or doing anything but causing chaos and panic in the defense.
I mean, they could revert it back to what it was in Season 1, 4-second chain time instead of 3. That would pretty much put the nail into Morgana.
4 seconds forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's what it was. Back when everybody was playing her mid lane and everything, when nobody was playing her mid lane, they changed it to 3, and then everybody started playing Morgana in mid lane, and then metas change and all that. But if they changed it back to 4 seconds, nobody would play her ever again because you'd never reliably get that ult off on more than one target, and even then.
Well, and even if you were that close and you didn't have a Zhonya's, you could very well die very quickly in that small little period.
Well, and like you said, Dom, it's the Black Shield blocking crowd control that makes her such a pain in the ass to deal with. So I will ban her every time and request she be banned if I'm not first pick, just because of Black Shield.
Man,
it's 95 to 70, so it's losing 25 at an early rank, so that's even bigger.
Right.
That's pretty big.
Well, for a 1 point wonder, I think 75 is pretty
still
much
good.
the magic number for it. Maybe even 60. I might even go as low as, because of the blocking crowd control.
Who cares? Blocks crowd control.
But at this point in the game, you were just saying you'd ban Morgana every time. I'm afraid of almost nobody in this game. I think I only ban them out of annoyance rather than I don't want to play
That's the big thing, annoyance. My thing won't do what I want it to because you have that stupid thing on you, so I'm going to ban you so that never happens.
Yeah, there's not a good reason to be specifically afraid of any one champion. It's like you want to prevent going up against different things, like especially in ranked 5s or something. It's like you have a comp or a couple different comps that you're thinking about running, and these champions tend to be problematic, or these popular champions, it's tough to play against them. That's why you would want to ban somebody. You don't necessarily want to ban because
always pick one champion.
Because Gragas shows up and he wins the game every time, or it's pre-rework Kassadin.
I'm not. Yeah. Well, we were sitting there last night and banning and playing the games. Like the first time I had played it in a couple days, and we were looking at it, and there was like, I was like, all right, I'll ban Yasuo just because late game, and our games tend to go to 40 minutes. Ban him, and I'll ban Tristana just because. Whatever, I can't think of a better ban. That's how I was kind of going.
Our games tend to go late, and that's when Tristana becomes a nightmare. And
it's pretty. But there's not the point where I'm like, I need to ban Cassidy, I need to ban Morgana, I need to ban Braum. It's just more or less. At this point in time, I don't feel like going against that. See, that's my solo queue mentality. Really, is I don't feel like going against this. But what Dom said, and if I was playing like a ranked 5s type of thing, it would be my team comp gets countered by a Mumu, so I'm banning a Mumu because of that.
I mean, but even then, I think you just hit a really good point on the bans and everything. If you know your team's play style, irrespective of the comp you run, you always seem to go in the 40, 45-minute mark, maybe longer. then it's really smart to ban out those late game powerhouses, because if the enemy team gets them, that's what's going to screw you over, especially if you weren't planning on running them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, I think we'll go ahead and move on to just the next point. We do want to point out that we don't have the information in front of us. We're going to probably come back and touch on it on either Wednesday or next Monday, but Victor is getting a gameplay update here shortly. Still far ahead of the Cyan.
We will touch on him if there are details about it. Mostly we just wanted to draw attention to that happening.
Right. Yeah, so be ready for that. And what's jungle priorities and lanes? I don't know what that...
That was kind of a listener question. They just want us to talk about jungle's priorities and lanes. And that was the question verbatim, and I didn't know how to phrase that into a question, so I thought maybe it's a good discussion point. We can talk about it another day.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move into the listener questions, and we'll hit that one probably on Wednesday. I think there's a couple of them here that I want to save. We have a hard date. I know it's been funny. We've been teasing and I've been giving Days a lot of shit, but we have a hard date of September 3rd for her to come on the podcast, so we'll have 5 people at that point. September
the countdown 3rd. Starts now.
Wait, is September 3rd actually a Wednesday? I didn't even look. Yeah, it is. It's a Wednesday.
That is a Wednesday, and I might not be able to make that day or the Monday because I move.
Well, that's great.
That's beautiful.
Throw her right in the fire.
Yeah.
But if you guys are curious why we've been teasing her and really trying to get her on, it's because we want to move to a 5-man show. We think that she brings, well, a 5-person show. We think that she brings a lot of insight from other facets of League that we don't have. I know she has quite a bit of support play, but she's also played AD carry and she's played other roles extensively. And she's been one of the people that went from, like DeClaude, from bronze to plat. So, and she's working her way hard to diamond. So we just thought it would be a good time at this point in the show where we could bring on a 5th person, and we can also allow some of us to have some time off if needed for other projects or, whatever comes up.
And she's working great for the rundown.
Yeah.
They were a guinea pig, their test.
Also, she trolls us as hard as we troll her, so it'll all work out. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move into listener questions. I added them all to the document today, and Dom edited them. This perfect relationship.
That's how we do.
All right, so we're going to start. There's actually the very first one we're going to start about. Normally we wouldn't do this, but we're moving it to the top of the list because it's on topic based on the game that we played last night, based on that 50-minute or 48-minute game we played last night. Alberto wrote in and he asked us, when should a player buy Executioner's Calling? And while normally we wouldn't answer this on the podcast, I think it's a good time to talk about it, because if you're playing roll-along games and you're playing against somebody, well, here, I'll give you the background. Last night when we played our game, we had a top volley bear who got fed fairly early, and he kept rolling that, again, through 38 minutes of the game before they started losing. Where
he was a problem.
He was a problem because I was Twitch, and my team had to decide, do we protect the Twitch and we let the 280 carries, because they ran 280 carries, Lucian, Caitlyn, do we let the 280 carries just kind of have their way, or do we dive everybody and let Twitch fend for himself? Well, with the way the team fights were taking place, the best bet was let Twitch fend for himself, and everybody dives the 2 squishy 80 carries and try to take them out quicker than Volleybear, who doesn't do a lot of damage, taking out Twitch. So when you start looking at that scenario with somebody like Executioner's Calling, if it's versus a Mundo or versus a Volleybear, and all he is doing is diving you, that's at that point where you really want to consider, okay, what is he doing? He's gaining tons of life back. Or I can only hit this champion, and I don't have any way to get through to the enemy champions. He's a wall. He's literally a wall. Well, figuratively, but still, he's figuratively a wall. And I can't, I have to hit him.
Wall that's moving at you.
Right. That at that point, when you're looking at, and he's a wall that's moving at you, gaining life back very significantly, very quickly. Mundo and Volleybear being the 2 main ones that you might play against in solo queue. So at that point, I bought Executioner's Calling when I had assessed the situation. I said, all right, in my last team fight, I almost killed him. I had Last Whisper, Blade of the Ruin King, and I was sitting
saved him.
A Zeal, and his passive saved him. Correct. He kept doing this. If you could see it, just moving up and down, moving. He would be so close to death and go, oh, I'm coming back up, because that passive just did so much. And so I said, 4th item, I'm skipping over Phantom Dancer. I'm skipping over my Boots and Chance. Right now I'm getting this Executioner's Calling. And it happens to be in the next team fight, he died because he couldn't regen through his passive. because I was doing just enough damage to him before that he could, just enough damage to keep him below or alive. Now it was enough damage to die or kill him. Excuse me.
Yeah, it was. Also, I mean, you had Janna peeling for you, and that's unreliable peel in the best of cases there. And Volibear is just going to like turn around and run right back at you. And then the rest of the team, which was Morgana, Nunu, and Jax, like we had to dive on the rest of them because there was no way that we could get Volibear off of you anyway.
Now, if you were playing Tristana, would you have just used her debuff at the right time instead of getting the Executioner's Calling and dealt with him that way? Okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, I liked having my brother play Misfortune and Tristana in like back when Vlad was really popular, out of mid or top, just because having that built-in healing debuff is very, very useful against that type of opponent. And that's really what it comes down to. If the opponent has champions that are posing major threats to you, that their gimmick, for lack of a better term, is that they get to deceptively low life, but they keep kind of healing through it and everything. They just persist through it, and then they end up killing you because of it. So like Vlad, Warwick, Mordekaiser, those types of Olaf, those types of champions, like that's when you're really going to want to think about Executioner's Calling, and also Morellonomicon.
It's one of those, you're going to build it in maybe 2% of your games, though.
You don't want it often, but the games where you want it, it's going to be the difference-making item for you.
And I don't even hate if somebody were to get an Executioner's Calling in a situation, like say they have a Mundo, Volley, even Maokai top lane, and you have like a Tryndamere, Olaf, anybody that can actually get some use out of that crit. I could see it being okay against Maokai. I mean, I'm not saying like, anybody like that.
He's already got one though, I think. Doesn't he have a heal debuff?
I'll check.
Oh,
I don't know.
He has a
so
slowness
niche.
passive. He has a slowness passive. He has a damage increase on his E and a movement speed increase. Come on. I'm the Gangplank master.
Well, he used to have a heal debuff, didn't he?
Yeah, he used to. That's why.
Right. His passive used to be heal debuff, and now it's slow. It's a really shitty
Rocksoak Blade.
So there you go. Executioner's Calling. Perfect on Gangplank.
For them crits.
Just kind of like a TLDR for Executioner's Calling when you want to buy it. It has to be the perfect storm of situations where you are, I would say you are being dove, or you can't make it through that tank who is regenning the life, and you don't have enough ignites to deal with him. If you're playing like in a team scenario, more than likely you are going to have the correct team comp where you're going to be able to back up and protect the AD carry from that Volibear or from that Mundo, and you're going to have Ignite to take him down. But when you're running something really stupid like a Janna jungle, and you've got Nunu, Twitch, Morgana, and Jax, there's no protection for that. There's no protection for that Twitch. So
you have to itemize.
You have to itemize based on your situation. It's what we always scream about. Itemize based on what's going on. I think this actually should go into the next question. Somewhere down the line in here, someone asked us, when should you buy boot enchants? And I think this really does transfer into that really well. Because one of my items after the Executioner's Calling, or I said...
Oh god, that's at the very bottom. Okay.
Right.
Troggy writes.
Yeah, Troggy... Yeah, go ahead.
What are the appropriate times to get boot enchantments? There we go.
Well, at one point in the game, I know I said I stopped. I didn't buy the Fear, but now I think about it, I bought that because I wanted the extra move speed. Because a lot of the thing with an AD carry, for example, a lot of AD carries and orb walk quite a bit. You don't get to stand there and just auto attack. And a lot of that game that I played last night was attack, move, attack, move, back, you know. And you need that extra move speed increase to get maybe one or two auto attacks off. So it's another assess the situation, what is happening in the game. And
especially in a situation like what you're talking about, if there's a Volibear diving you every time you get into a fight, or somebody that's trying to get to you every time, that little bit of extra boost is amazing for helping you get off a couple of those extra hits. And then you have the Executioner's Calling, so that's even wasting more time between the time where his passive's starting to tick, that you're getting some more damage on him. I could see that being great as well in certain situations.
If they're side pushing the heck out of you and you're pretty much on your back heel, you might want to get the home guards early, just so you can protect your base, because they're going to be in your face. I find that's when I usually get that, when I'm on.
For me, it's pretty much if I have the money to get the one of the enchants that I'm looking for, then I grab it then. Part of it's I'm in more of a gold star role compared to everything else, but I always look at it as if I can get something that's going to help me now and it's going to even possibly make an impact on the next team fight or what I end up doing for the next X minutes of the game, I'm going to get that item because that's more useful to me than gold in my wallet.
What is Kayla doing? Oh, there's a rat. There's a sleeve rat.
Yep. It's hard to not pay attention
Is that
to.
Pebbles?
No, that one was Mishka.
Was that Lady Twitch?
No. Mishka is not Lady. Mishka is Mishka.
I don't know which one's Lady Twitch.
Lady Twitch is off
Lady
here
Twitch is the white one.
cleaning herself disgustingly somewhere.
Lady Twitch is
There she
white.
is.
Pebbles is the cutest, and Mishka's just a little.
I like
asshole.
how you admit that Pebbles is the cutest. She's my baby. Oh, hey, lady.
Yeah, there's Lady. See, Lady's a little white rat.
yeah.
I was all over these rats. They were like my best friend when I came up there.
When you come back,
Oh,
he'll be your best
Well, we
friend
were
again,
talking
baby.
about Twitch, so it's relevant.
Yeah, see? Little LT chilling
There you
out.
go.
Buying her
Little show and tell.
executioner's calling. Getting her some boots. Throwing an enchant on those bad boys.
Gotta make them look good, right?
Damn right.
All right. Well, Gorath wrote in and asked us for an explanation of trading and how it works. I do want to point out, Gorath, that there is the Journey to 30 on YouTube at youtube.com/T-Force podcast. And they actually did a whole 30-minute episode about trading and showed you how to effectively trade live on YouTube. Like they played a couple different champions and traded and showed you what you should need to be doing. So I think that is a great place to start for that question. We have talked about trading in the past, but I don't really have much to add more than what we've said in probably the past like 5 episodes.
I mean, to a degree, it's a very, very difficult concept to explain past the idea that you are trying to deal damage to the other person and take less than he or she can give to you.
Watch 1v1 tonight so you can see how trading works. 1v1 is all about trading.
This always comes back down to trading comes down to understanding the matchup you're currently in and knowing when the best time to go in and do something, understanding power spikes, everything that we've hit on time and again.
I mean, to a degree, it's almost like putting together not all of them, but many of the concepts of this game come together as far as trading goes, because you need to know how to last hit, but you also need to know how to reposition while throwing out a spell to hit a target while also dodging the enemy's spells and everything. I mean, that's a lot of different things that you need to be thinking about doing while you play this game. It's not an easy, and managing minion aggro, you know? I mean, look, there's so many different things going on in there because it's this, like, coalescence of game concepts.
Try doing this, Gorath, just as a starter thing. Watch, Adam mentioned the Journey to 30. They did a whole episode on it, so you'll get a lot of information there. But try doing this. Keep an eye not only on the enemy minion health while you're last hitting, but your minion health. When your minion's about to go low, you can predict when they're going to come in to last hit it. So you know where they're going to be, so you can effectively anticipate a skill shot. Or maybe throw a trade to scare him off of that minion. Even if you don't do any damage, but you aggress towards him and he moves off and misses that CS, you have a minor victory there. And you stack up enough of those throughout the laning phase, and you'll pull ahead. So
that's exactly
just
how
watch
Alistar works in the top lane too. Alistar's very minor victories because you have to set up. You're not going to kill them in a full engage one-on-one with Alistar like we talked earlier, or Maokai for that matter. Like, he's very hard to get a kill from 100 to 0 because he doesn't do enough sustained damage. So you just have to
sustain yourself.
You have to whittle the person down, but you also have to figure out. Let's pretend I'm playing the top lane against Aurelia or Nasus. They have built-in lifesteal. So my poke, I have to figure out if I poke them at this point, will my lane move toward them? And if it moves toward them, do I have enough poke or all-in potential to kill them before they get to their tower? Because with Nasus, you have to kill them from 75 and less. Like, you're not going to 100 to 0 Nasus unless you're fed or you're playing like the perfect Storm of Champion, which is middly, really.
It's why in bot lane you'll see a lot of marksmen who get forced back early pick up either another Doran's Blade or two, or a Vampiric Scepter. Mm-hmm. And it's just because they need that additional sustain to prevent themselves from going back to base. Doing so puts them behind in most cases because they've spent money on something that's not ideal for their first purchase and everything, but if it keeps them in the lane longer and everything, despite the trading and stuff that's going on, like, that's the right call.
Right, and if you have a mana bar, keep in mind that those opponents Adam was talking about that have some kind of lifesteal and sustain. Will you exhaust your mana bar before you can exhaust their health bar? And if they're sustaining, probably not, unless if you're just spamming out your poke. So you have to manage it.
A 1v1 scenario is a very tough thing to master. We're going back to Sean's point. You have to know matchups, or you at least have to have a basic understanding of what the enemy champion is capable of. So if you're playing against Poppy, you have to have a basic understanding of stay away from the walls. Like you can
also know that you're not going to kill her even if you think you're killing her.
Right. And if you're playing Nidalee, you know that she's going to be ranged, she's going to stand in bushes, she's going to toss spears at you, and it's going to be a hell of a lane. Like, she is fantastic at one-on-ones. Now, if I'm playing Nunu, he's just going to try to sustain through everything and poke you out with ease. So if you have a chance...
And for Nunu to do anything, like, he's got to get close to you.
If you're playing against a Rengar, he's going to try and sit by the bushes and all in you at 2 or 3.
Yep. See how every matchup has its own way of playing, and you can play any champion. Yeah, you can play any champion in those matchups, but you have had to play that matchup at least once or played that character to understand it. So Gorath or anybody else out there who really wants to master trading, you just need to, and I would say one of the first things to do is what Claude said earlier, but also while you're playing, think to yourself, if I was to auto-attack him twice right now, is the damage I'm going to do worth the amount that I could potentially take back? And you need to try it.
Factoring in minion aggro.
See, it's chess. Seriously, this game it's just another form of chess because there's just so many little things you have to think of. You have to think 3 or 4 steps ahead of your opponent to effectively...
Right, but, if your minions are on the... Let's say you've pushed and you have more minions and they only have a couple of caster minions and 1 melee. Then you don't have to worry about the minion aggro, for example, when you all in. And
the minion aggro is such a big part. Like, I played a ranked game the other day where I was up against a Jax, and my minion wave is twice as big, and he tried to all-in me, and the minions basically killed him while I'd stunned and ran away from him. And he started talking shit to me. And it's like, dude, if you knew how to trade well, that wouldn't have happened. Like, the minion aggro is... it's so subtle, but it's not.
My brother
and
I call it the classic Victor mistake because for the longest time he would get super aggressive in bot lane, and we would lose fights or he would even die because he took all the damage from he just took so much damage from minions, and I couldn't do anything to stop all of that. You know, I mean, like there are a lot of tactics that kind of revolve around managing minion aggro and everything, like just letting your opponent initiate and then taking all that minion aggro while you counter on that. There are times where you just shouldn't start a fight because of it. You know.
Yep. Like when the jungler says, "I'm ganking now," and they have a huge wave pushing at you.
They got 20 minions there. Please.
Yeah.
Back the fuck up.
You got to run through them to get to the opponent.
Well, there we go. Please, Gorath, let us know if any of those tips helped or what I have to do.
Now I remember what I was gonna say. Sorry.
Go for it.
So it's very difficult to know what every single champion in this game does and everything. There's no shame in asking your teammates because somebody will be able to give you a quick rundown, but B, feel out a matchup. If you don't know what a champion does, just be like, okay, I'm gonna ease off the gas a little bit, or decide to go really hard just to see what the opponent can do and everything, and then that way you're better informed going forward and everything. But feel out the matchup, see what that champion you're playing against does, and then start trying to push its limits.
That's a really good point. You can actually pick up on patterns by doing stuff like that. Aggress, see what they do. Do they back off immediately? Okay, they're a passive laner right now, and then get a feel for it. Good point, Tom. I like that.
I hope glad we snuck that one in there. I was going to start telling points of how to play some more one-on-ones. I can't do that. Too many points for Tom. All right, Nathan writes in, and this is really up Dom's alley because he yells about this damn item every game. Nathan wants to know, how do I properly use Tarragons into the late game? Because he says after a certain point the enemies... Tarragons. I had an extra A. He wants to know how to use Tarragons late into the game because it feels like the entire wave is always cleared out before he's able to attack because no one respects that he has the item.
Get used to it. That's what happens with that item. It's exceedingly frustrating and everything because you'll be running and most supports have really slow attack animations, so there's not anything like you'll get there and you're in the windup and then the mage will clear the entire wave or the marksman will last hit it before you get the chance and everything. That's just the reality of the situation. If you're on voice with somebody, you can say, "Hey, let me grab these." That type of communication does help, but don't let it bother you too much and everything, and don't read too much into the gold loss, because in the early goings, you still should have made a lot more money than the people with spell piece. And
the whole point of Targon's earlier Relic Shield is to give your AD carry a boost that they wouldn't normally get.
Well, and you get the boost too, because you do, if you're managing it properly, you do get more money than anything else.
And remember the heal on it too.
I was just about to bring that up as well. It's a very good trading tool where you can use it mid-trade or after a trade to heal your carry back before they're allowed to, which is one less potion potentially the carry has to buy.
Carries listen up to this, by the way. When you're hurting, your support can heal you if you let them get those last hits right there. So.
And I'm not trying to downplay the significance of the shield, because that's a very useful part of Face of the Mountain, and a reason enough to buy it. Yeah, I've used it to a lot of success recently and everything. Not necessarily for the damage, which is nice, but just getting people out of trouble. An extra shield is always helpful.
Yep. Always good to have.
But if you don't find that you need the tankiness that the item provides and everything, you would not be faulted for a mid-game switch to a Talisman of Ascension. Usually the champions getting Targons wouldn't be inclined to get Frost Queens.
Right.
But you wouldn't be, nobody would fault you for making a mid-game switch to Talisman, because that's going to be more reliable income for you than Targons is the later the game goes. And Talisman active is always good.
Well, it's hard to say. With that, I'd probably only switch to Talisman if I can pick up Talisman right out. Like I can sell.
Yeah. Oh no. I would never. I would never suggest selling. Because I think it's Targon's Embrace is the second tier.
The second.
Yeah, I would never suggest selling Targons just to pick up an ancient coin, and then and then trying to start all over from there. No, you just want ride the item that you have until you can get the full Talisman of Ascension. If you're planning to do that, take that route. Well, if you could get the Nomad's Medallion, make that switch, because that gives you movement speed.
That's the equivalent to the Targon's upgrade.
Yeah, and then you're going to be getting the passive gold generation. So
I don't know if I would.
Better for you.
I don't know if it depends on the champion you're playing and what you're doing, because that extra life is so pivotal.
But don't
pivotal too. Can't talk.
Yeah, but don't read too much into. I mean, your teammates are going to take that. They're not going to be mindful of the fact that you have that item and everything, because the reality is you're the support. You're supposed to be in their minds. You're supposed to be throwing wards up, and that's it.
The biggest thing you can do is ask, and it's not guaranteed that you're going to get anything back for doing that.
Although you can time it. You can anticipate that they're going to try to wipe out that wave and let them do the first attack if they don't have enough to finish it off, and then try to sneak in your attack. Your abilities can also affect it. Alistar is one. If you play him in the support role, you can wait until they do that little AoE and then pulverize real quick, and if they're low enough, you'll get 2 or 3. Or 1 or 2, if depending on how many you hit. So.
Or you use pulverize, you fuck up his last hitting, and he curses you out and reports you after that game.
and he gets 4 CS for it anyway.
Yep.
No, I mean, yeah, but anytime I get that item, every single guy on this show can attest to it. I just bitch and complain.
Fucking you did last night.
Oh, it's really frustrating just trying to go for last hits, and your teammates, even if you're on the call with them, they just kind of forget that you have the item.
I've been playing with Declawed.
It's really easy to be not mindful of the fact that the support has it.
I've been playing with Declawed, and every time I see a big minion wave, I always know he's going to ask to come, and I just make sure to wait if he's playing support, because he's going to be over there as Leona, whoever anyway.
I'm glad that you're picking up this habit, because that's eventually going to translate into something useful in general.
I always let... even if I'm in a mid lane or whatever the case later in the game, if I see my Thresh or whatever coming up to me and I see those little globes going around him, you'll see globes. That means he has the ability to last hit something and get that extra gold. So I see the globes.
For him anyway. He wants the sweet, sweet experience, baby.
Right. Nope, ain't got time for that. Need the experience. Need to move on. We got to go Trentos Dragon. Fuck this Thresh.
Wait, just love your support so your support can love you.
I'm lying. Love your support.
We want to love you. We want you. We have so much of it to give, and
bullshit,
you don't
Tom. You've never once tried to love me.
That's not true.
There was that one time.
I was.
Oh, that escalated so quickly.
Yeah, he did say you want my hair, which I don't know what that means, but I can take that anyway at this point in time.
He wants to pet it.
All right, last question of the night from Case. When trying to most effectively use Sheen, is it better to blow all my cooldowns and get 1 per rotation, or should I be attempting to use the proc every time it's up? Case, it's champion dependent.
It's situation dependent. If you're quirky and they're at a quarter health and they use their dash already, yeah, go in and blow everything and hope that you kill them.
Well,
if they're
like
full health,
Lucian,
you're going to want to trade and get the most out of it.
Lucian uses his full combo no matter what. It's Q,
Right.
it's Q, auto attack, W, auto attack, E, not the exact combo. I'm not saying it, but it's three abilities in a row. Rotation, right? And then so by the time the E comes back up, or whatever ability you want to use second, you have your next Sheen proc. Now with somebody like Fizz is either Q or E in there, get that Sheen proc, and then proc it again with W. But when we say it's situation dependent, it depends how much you need to know your damage when you're playing any champions. And if you have enough damage in between proccing that Sheen, then go ahead and blow everything that you have. But say if you're somebody like Alistar, you are more than likely aren't going to have your entire time to get. You're not going to get two Sheen. You're not going to get Sheen off Q and W. You're going to get a Sheen off Q, then E, for example. So more than likely, most people rotation gives two Sheen time to try to get two Sheen procs.
Right, and if you're really comfortable last hitting, CSing, trading, and then concentrate on managing the Sheen procs, if you're in lane, in the laning phase, if you're just sitting there dueling your opponent, trading, then maybe you want to manage it to get the most effect out of it. But I would say concentrate more on your last hitting and making sure that you can trade. So, and like Sean was saying, if they're at a quarter health, just
Murk them.
Murk them.
Just murk them.
Then yell America and run down mid lane. When are we gonna get a champion that carries an American flag like he wins? Like it's like stars and stripes. Like
in Smite they have Raw America.
I know.
And they have the Rise skin.
Yeah, Uncle Rise.
Yeah, that's not as great. I wish he threw
Statue of Liberty, Karthus.
No, who
he ults and yells America.
Which X-Men is it that shoots fireworks from her hands?
Jubilee.
That's what I want to hear. Like I wish Rise would throw fireworks from his hands.
Rise VU. Make it happen, Riot.
Yes, please. Because it'd be sweet. Throw a Q and then it's a dumb. Oh my god, I can just make the sound effects all night because they're awesome.
Have to go again?
You know what's going to happen tonight when I win? When I meet Tom in the 1v1 in Summoner's Rift at the end, there's going to be fireworks.
Stick around. Right after this podcast, it's happening.
Oh, yeah.
You like those? Yeah, all right.
Or is somebody casting it?
Yes! Actually, tonight, Safa and Mitch Serial Box from the LCS Rundown are casting it. It's a best 2 out of 3 top lane blind pick. Chat bans 100 CS, first tower, or first kill. Versus Optimus Tom and Ponophobia for all the marbles.
All the rules.
All right, guys, that's the episode 184 of the Trinity Force Podcast. Go check out youtube.com/TForce Podcast. We've talked about it 100,000 times. We're pushing out more and more and more and more content to that YouTube channel every week.
It's not been 100,000 times.
It's been close.
Check it out, though.
Yeah.
Great.
His face.
And buy a bag.
Come back Wednesday when Dom has been kicked off the podcast. We replaced him with Days Untold. Goodbye, Dom. Goodbye. Everybody wave bye to Dom.
Kisses.
Bye, everybody.